What in the world is going on in Springfield, Ohio? Well, we're going to answer that question today because, as we've seen, it's been something that's circulating throughout the news right now. And why could that be? Well, it's because it's in relation to the immigration crisis, and what specifically the immigration crisis in relation to Haitian migrants being imported into the middle of the country. The thing that I find most intriguing about all of this is the nature of how this actually ended up coming to fruition, which is during the presidential debate, Donald Trump versus Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris ends up getting Donald Trump to stumble. He ends up effectively just racing in circles in his own mind, trying to figure out what he has to say. And then he just ends up blurting out, "They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats." And he's just talking about what's going on with like this news that had come out of Haitian migrants in Springfield, Ohio, apparently killing local ducks and geese as well as cats and dogs that have apparently gone missing. And the rumors were is that they were being killed and then eaten by the local Haitian migrants that had been imported into Springfield, which these Haitian migrants coming into Springfield being roughly to the tune of 15 to 20,000 people at this point, what we could realize is that is going to be a major blow to the welfare system of Springfield, Ohio, considering this is a town of roughly, I don't know, 40,000 people before you had this mass influx of Haitian migrants. You go down to the Social Security office, it's filled with Haitian migrants. You go to the hospital, filled with Haitian migrants. If you go down to the welfare office itself, it is filled with Haitian migrants. And that is something that so many within a place like Springfield, Ohio are wondering what is going on and why is it that so many of these people were dumped where we live. And not only that, but the media coming forward claiming that all of these stories about all of these pets going missing, well, that's just nonsense, you see. But then the on the ground reporting started to come out from independent journalists who were actually speaking to residents, as well as footage of people at city council meetings talking about what they're seeing going on with these Haitians. And it seems that it is very clear that the media had lied once again, and that it appears Haitian migrants are indeed taking the local ducks and geese, as well as people's cats and dogs, and cooking and eating them. I thought this was a bit much, and I wasn't sure if it was actually legit at first, but no, it appears that this is indeed the case. Welcome to the 21st century. Welcome to the United States, echoing the sentiments of a third world nation. Starting off with Zero Hedge here, we can see can't take it anymore. Residents of Springfield, Ohio beg for help after 20,000 Haitians overwhelm city and eat local wildlife. And I thought that was a bit ridiculous at first, and I didn't think it was true, which is why I didn't report on this instantly when this story dropped. But with the footage that has come out from local journalists and independent journalists who have traveled to Springfield, it appears that this, in fact, is the case. Here we see the city of Springfield, Ohio, with a population of 60,000, has been overwhelmed by roughly 20,000 Haitian illegal migrants who have flocked to the city, exacerbating a significant housing crisis according to city officials and eating pets and wildlife according to locals. And first off, let's just address the fact that I was wrong about the population numbers in the intro of this video. I said 40,000 people lived in Springfield and that there were 20,000 Haitian migrants, and I was wrong about that because I thought that the total number was 60,000 when I was reading this article earlier, but alas, clearly I was wrong. The base level population was 60,000, and there are roughly 20,000 migrants that have then come to this town itself. So my ratio was off, but very clearly it doesn't change the fact that what we see is with the local city services that are supposed to be providing for the citizens of this town are completely overrun and have no capacity to actually take care of the citizenry. No, they're being flooded and only taking care of illegal migrants at this current moment. Quite fascinating. And what you see with that is the nature of a conversation such as what's going on with these Haitian migrants to tilt into a possibility of people having hatred for these individuals, which we need to address point blank that that is not how you do this. You do not hate someone who wanted to have a better life because the country that they were in was falling apart at the seams, that they wanted to be able to provide prosperity for their loved ones, to make sure that their children had food on their table. That is not something that you should have any hatred or ire for. But what you need to realize is that this cannot be subsidized by the taxpayer because it is not economically feasible to do so, and it will only capsize the society that these people want to be a part of so desperately. And again, I say this with no hatred in my heart for these people because they want a better life, and that is a noble desire, but you simply cannot do so off the teat of the American taxpayer, which is exactly what we see with all of these people flooding into the country, whether it be these Haitian migrants that are going to Springfield or the tens of millions of people that have flocked into the United States through places like the southern border after Joe Biden announced the end of Title 42 when he said to surge the border during the presidential debates with Donald Trump and Joe Biden. It was truly something that was stunning. But the thing that I think is even more stunning about all of this is the nature of what you're actually seeing on the ground when you see people coming to these local city council meetings, speaking about what it is that they're having to deal with. And then you realize that these people, these citizens, they're not of the priority of the local town, nor the government of Ohio itself, because you can see that they have been completely abandoned in many ways. And this footage of this woman at a local city council meeting really does highlight that fact.
I live at 426 Northwestern Avenue. Miss Skinner, who I'm not trying to put on the spot, is my neighbor.
Just talk to me, ma'am. Thank you so much.
And I'm done with what I'm seeing. It is so unsafe in my neighborhood anymore. I have the homeless that were trying to camp out, and I have made concessions with them, and I try to help them the best I can to keep them from trying to squat on my property. But it is so unsafe. I have men that cannot speak English in my front yard screaming at me, throwing mattresses in my front yard, throwing trash in my front yard. And I can't. Look at me, I weigh 95 pounds. I couldn't defend myself if I had to. My husband is elderly, and last night, after living in this home for 45 years, he said, Noelle, guess what? It's time to pack up and move. He said, we can't do this anymore. He said, it's killing both of us mentally. I don't understand what you expect of us as citizens. I mean, I understand they're here under temporary protected status and you're protecting them, and I understand that our city services are overwhelmed and understaffed, but who's protecting us? If we're protecting them, who's protecting me? I want out of this town. I am sorry. Please give me a reason to stay. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's just the saddest thing, man. A woman sitting there talking about how she's lived in this town for over 40 years in her home with her husband. And apparently, it's finally time to go. And it's because the city isn't there to protect them. She's claiming that she's 90 pounds. She doesn't even have the capacity to defend herself if she wanted to. And what you need to realize is that many of the times you would see women such as this, well, they're now victims. And why could that possibly be? Because you're importing a large portion of people that do not share the same cultural perspective, and with that, they do not share the same moral framework, which very well means that you could be opening up so many of these women in places throughout the United States to being targeted. And that is exactly what we've seen in many different stories across the states. It doesn't matter where it is. We've seen a story of an illegal immigrant sexually assaulting and then killing someone, and many of the times it's always a very small and frail woman, or God forbid, a child. And this is something that people need to realize will only be used as cannon fodder to make people hate the concept of immigration, but not only that, the immigrants themselves, even if the people themselves are not villainous individuals. You have to understand how this canon will be used by specific parties, just like you have to realize how specific parties that claim to care about things like women and their plight, like the mainstream media, will completely ignore it when it's a woman like this complaining about the fact of what has been visited upon her, making her feel unsafe in her own home. Because what you see is the reason she feels unsafe, well, that's because of the fact of things like what the media has been so consistently advocating for. And we all know that they're not going to own up to the fact of their responsibility in pushing someone like that woman into a situation akin to the one that she is now dealing with. And just like we will not see them take responsibility for giving this woman that you're about to see the absolute hysterical panic attack that she is suffering through because she no longer feels safe walking the streets of her home in Springfield, Ohio.
This shit ain't no joke. It's not funny. I really do not feel fucking safe here, bro. Like, everyone on TikTok, on Facebook, making these jokes to get everything's fucking funny. Like, imagine you being homeless for a whole fucking year for no fucking reason. Like, what the fuck? This shit is not fun. This shit is not cool, bro. They really out here decapitating animals and y'all are making jokes out of it. Imagine if you went outside and you saw your dog's head decapitated on the fucking ground. Like, why are y'all thinking this shit's a joke? It's not a joke. I don't feel comfortable walking anywhere. Like, what the fuck? I should be able to feel safe in my own city. Everybody's fucking homeless out here. Ain't shit but fucking scary ass Haitians just lurking and creeping and shit. Y'all thinking this shit's motherfucking funny? I keep making this shit up. It's not made up, bro. This shit is real life. This shit is really affecting me. Like, what the fuck?
The poor thing is just absolutely hysterical. She's terrified. That's a woman who's not going to feel safe to walk the streets at night at all in her town whatsoever, even if she's carrying, because she feels like she's going to be prey at every single turn. And that is absolutely fucking tragic. And what you come to a realization of is it is the standards of mass immigration that is making women like this feel unsafe, which is exactly why it is untenable for our society. Because if we are not protecting women and children, putting them at the highest of pedestals and saying they must be kept safe at every single turn, and that is of paramount importance, at what point are you even a fucking society worth saving? And I'm just going to go ahead and call it there because I was about to say some shit that YouTube's certainly not going to like. But anyways, the thing that I find so unbelievable about this is that we see so many of these people for so long that were the champions of women's rights say nothing about shit like this because they don't want to go ahead and raise their hand and stick up just outside the spectrum of allowable opinion for but a moment to have all of their different progressive cohorts turn their crosshairs upon them, to look upon them demonishly with their ravenous red eyes, ready to excommunicate them from their team, all because the purity spiral finally ended up catching up to you because you had one singular opinion that stepped outside the bounds of what is allowed within the ethos of progressive thought. Absolutely wild, but that is exactly why you see so many of these people who claim to champion women's rights not speaking up about things such as this. And I wonder how many more videos we're going to have to see, such as the one you just saw, or the one I'm about to show you of this woman claiming she's been stalked and effectively sexually harassed by Haitian migrants repeatedly, and that she has also talked to numerous women within Springfield, Ohio that are suffering the exact same thing. You are bringing in a large portion of people that do not share the same cultural perspectives as the native population, and you are not pushing for the standards of assimilation. Thus, you will only see things like what we're talking about and what you're about to hear escalate in mass.
I don't ever hear a lot of women talking about this, but when I do talk to women about this, they do bring it up and they do say the same thing. So I know I'm not the only one. But I've been stalked through stores by Haitian men. It's to the point where I would tell them, like, hey, stop fucking following me. And it's not like, oh, you're just being nervous. They ain't really following you. Yes, bitch, they're following me. If you go to the milk aisle, go to the freaking detailing section, and go to the toy section, and go to the tootsie aisle, and go to the dog food aisle, and they're the same ones who are following you around, they're stalking you. They're stalking. So I always tell them, I let them know that I know that they're stalking me. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. But anymore, I do not go to the grocery store by myself. If I do go by myself, I'm on the phone with somebody, I'm watching my surroundings, and best believe I have something on me. So that also sucks. Another thing that I've fell in love with the gym. The gym has been my second home. Here lately, I just can't really stand going into the gym. There's some days where I have to wrap a jacket around my waist to feel comfortable going into my gym. It is a unisex gym. There's men and women there. But I've never really felt like I wasn't welcomed in my own gym. I will say that. That's one of the things I hate about the biggest thing I do hate about it right now is the gym right now. But, you know, they're in there working on themselves. That's good. But when they're in there watching women to the point where they're rubbing their junk and stuff, it's gross. It's giving foul. It's giving nasty. It's giving get the fuck out of my gym. So that's also going on.
That is completely and totally unacceptable. And what you will see is that standards like this will continue to proliferate and only happen more if we see this mass immigration crisis continue to expand within that of the Western world. Just saying, it's the nature of how it is. If you don't like that fact, well, I'd argue you need to go find some form of alternate reality to go live in then. Here we see from CNN Politics now. Fear and frustration in Ohio City as political debate seizes on growing Haitian population. And that's right, there is fear and frustration, as you just saw in numerous of those women, but what you can also realize is that it's not just the people of Springfield, Ohio that are feeling this way, as in the citizens themselves. Here you see from USA Today, they hate us. Haitian residents in Springfield, Ohio fear for their safety. The irony of this is just off the charts. But what we also should address is that there are plenty of people that I'm sure are Haitian immigrants in Springfield, Ohio, that are just trying to build a better life for themselves, to make sure that their kids have a good meal on their table when they go to have dinner, that they can sit with their family in a home and live a good, noble, and dutiful life. And like I've said so many times when talking about this concept of open immigration and the mass influx of people into the West, it's understandable why you would want to do this, but what you have to come to grips with is you're owed nothing, and the taxpayer should not have to subsidize you and your ascension throughout the economic ladder, which is exactly what we see consistently happen in a place like Springfield, Ohio, as has been mentioned numerous times by numerous people in many interviews, which you can go find online. They are quite easy to stumble upon, and we'll be playing a clip of that in just a moment, of some woman who's talking about how she's homeless, she does not have the capability to get welfare, she does not have the capability to get anything from the government that she needs to properly restructure herself and give her a real foundation. She is not given good government services, which I myself am not even in favor of government services, but that's a conversation for a different day. Nonetheless, what we need to address here is the government services that would be provided to a woman such as like the one we're talking about now. Well, they're being taken up by who? Oh, and it's by Haitian migrants, of course. We'll be getting to that clip in just a moment. Here we see from the Associated Press, Ohio is sending troopers and $2.5 million to a city that has seen an influx of Haitian migrants. And who do you think that $2.5 million is going to be going to? Well, I can guarantee you it's not subsidizing the taxpayers of this city. No, no. It's going to be to subsidize the people from a land who is not that of the United States. Here we see, from the Columbus Dispatch, Ohio jury convicts man who caused first day of school bus crash that killed 11-year-old. And why am I bringing this up? Well, this man was a Haitian migrant driving illegally, and the thing that I specifically want to touch on with this would be that stories such as this that were just in the back channels of the internet that weren't really being talked about are now being volleyed into the landscape once more, because we see a conversation like what's going on within Springfield around the Haitian migrants, and things like this will only be used as cannon fodder for people to be like, oh yeah, well, did you hear that story about how that Haitian migrant killed that illegal immigrant? So therefore my hatred of these people is justified. But the thing is, this was not an intentional action. This was crashing into the side of a school bus, which then broke the axle of the bus. The bus tilts off into a ditch, and there were children hurt, and sadly this young boy died. I'm not here to defend the Haitian migrant, I'm just stating it's very clear how things like this will be used as cannon fodder to fire at the opposition. So we need to be weary of things such as this, because we have to be able to analyze this from all sides. Now let's go ahead and throw it into that clip of that woman that I was talking about, explaining how it is that she's not able to get services handed down by the government, but all of these different Haitian migrants, well, they most certainly are.
Would you like to know what the Haitians are calling the food assistance cards? Or
Tell me.
Even the cash assistance cards. They're calling them the magic money cards because they never run out. These people have jobs, like factory jobs, making $20, $30 an hour and still receiving food and cash assistance from the government. I can't even make over a certain amount a month. Or they take my assistance. I don't even have assistance right now because I keep getting denied. I'm homeless. I'm jobless. I'm sleeping on friends' couches because I can't get government assistance because I come from the wrong country, apparently.
United States.
Yeah. I worked retail before I lost my job back in April. When I do transactions, I can see what comes across on certain cards. I'm not trying to be nosy. I don't want to know what you get. But when a Haitian comes through and spends $500 in food stamps and still has $5,000 on their food assistance card.
$5,000?
$5,000. The landlord told my mother to her face, you're going to find troubles getting a landlord to rent to you because the government is giving landlords $800 a head to rent to the Haitians.
Why?
To give them places to live. It's like I said, the government's more worried about bringing in Haitians to live here than they are to take care of their own citizens. Okay. We have veterans, people who went and put their lives at risk for us, sleeping on the streets because the Haitians are more important.
What do you think should be done?
Whole ass priority change. Our government is prioritizing the wrong country. Like, I get the U.S. was built on immigration, but that was legal immigration after a while. Like, once everything was regulated, and I have nothing against immigration. I really don't. If you want to go someplace to try and build a better life for yourself, do that. But for our government to totally throw aside national citizens, people that was born and raised here, that's, this is our country, it's our government, and they're treating us like we're the trash.
Well said by this woman here, and I think she highlights something that's incredibly crucial to focus on, which is the magic money card. The limitless pool of resources you see, which of course isn't actually limitless. It's siphoned away from the American taxpayer, whether it be through the fact of a direct tax by actually taking your tax dollars, or the indirect tax of inflation by printing money and lowering the value of your dollar, which is just a subtle tax, which is realistically a heavy-hitting hand upon the poor and middle class, as we see the middle class effectively being withered into nothing in the current era. That is a major talking point that so many need to focus on. Why is it that illegal immigrants are effectively having limitless resources handed to them? Not only are they getting good jobs handed to them by the government, they're also seeing housing given to them by the government, or housing given to them by landlords specifically, which are then being subsidized by the government to make sure that these illegal immigrants have a place to live. Of course, not only that, we also saw in places like these massive cities akin to that of Seattle, Chicago, and New York City, all of these extremely expensive hotels paid for, of course, by the taxpayer's dollar to make sure that these people have places to live. Isn't that just incredible? Of course, also in many of these places, when photos are taken of receipts from cards that are swiped that are actually EBT cards given to these illegal immigrants, we can see that it is indeed a magic money card, a limitless pool of resources, with some places coming out to the tune of $5,000 to $6,000 that they're seeing, others seeing $10,000 to $15,000 to $20,000 to $30,000 in some of these accounts. All of which is that of the American taxpayers' money. But of course, as you know, that doesn't matter. And what this woman needs to realize is why it doesn't matter. And it's because the government doesn't serve you. She has a total misconception of this, and so do many people, claiming that, well, look what they're doing to take care of these illegal immigrants. Yeah, that's right. That's because they don't give a shit about you. The government never has, and the only time that they ever claim to do so will be a moral grandstand that they will put upon whatever pedestal they stand as they hand wave to act as if they care so much about the poor and the downtrodden. But in the end, as we see, they will use the poor and the downtrodden, whether it be the immigrants from other lands that are poor, downtrodden, and broken, or the poor and downtrodden in the nation that they claim to serve, as cannon fodder to push whatever standards they desire upon society. I'm going to go ahead and call it there. Thank you for watching if you got this far. Thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. Tell me where I'm wrong in the comment section down below. Stay lovely, stay great, and most importantly, my friends, as always, go tell someone you love them. Peace out.